What's the matter? What's bothering you?
I never wanted this for you.
As potentially the greatest film ever made, The Godfather has many tricks up its sleeve. Whether they are explainable or simply magic is up for debate. But as part of its many tricks, The Godfather does not immediately reveal all of its cards. Some of its hands are played for us to see, but it saves its best bets for later. The trick is in how it develops multiple plot lines at the same time, each of which is treated with the care of an individual story, but then hones in on the one you would least expect. In doing so, The Godfather successfully executes the most basic magic trick, the sleight of hand. It sneakily makes Michael Corleone the focus of the story. The film does so by masking its true purpose. It puts the stories of Vito, Sonny, and Tom at the forefront initially, with Michael as the odd one out. But it doesn't hide him away from the audience. He is there for us to see, hidden in plain sight, and only fully revealing himself at the most opportune moments. This isn't to say that this is a shock reveal or an unearned twist. Rather, because the plot is so jam-packed, it becomes difficult to discern exactly what the story is trying to achieve. So many characters rise and fall in the course of the film. At some point we are left to wonder who will possess the crown in the end. In executing its perfect trick, the film gives us an answer to this quandary that is both unexpected and fulfilling. But why does it work? Why is Michael's ascent so effective? Because of how the seeds are planted in the first place. The trick wouldn't work if we were given an obvious answer. As far as mafioso crime bosses go, Michael Corleone is an unlikely candidate to take up the helm. In the opening scene at the wedding, it becomes clear that he is not like the rest of his family. Unlike his brothers and father, he does not seem interested in power dynamics and control. No one sees much of Michael. He isn't around as much as the others.
Where's Michael?
Don't worry, it's all right.
We learn that he isn't involved in the affairs of the Corleone crime family. His hands are considered clean relative to his kin. If anything, he is an outsider. Juxtaposing him with the rest of his family highlights not only how removed he is from their operations, but from their mentality.
That's my family, Kay. It's not me.
And perhaps for this reason, he is also considered the golden child. It is made clear that his father Vito considers him the prodigal son. He is meant to have greater aspirations than to partake in organized crime. Vito speaks of how he had always hoped Michael would become a lawyer or a senator, partially for his own selfish benefit, of course. On top of everything, Michael is routinely identified through being an Ivy League dropout turned war hero.
Like this, bada bing, you blow their brains all over your nice Ivy League suit.
Kid's clean, Captain. He's a war hero.
So this model upstanding citizen is firmly defined as outside of the scope of the organized crime business. As the events of the film transpire, Michael slowly gets pulled into the world of organized crime. When he visits his father in the hospital, he discovers no hospital staff except one. Suspecting his father's life is in danger, he quickly takes action to protect him from those that would wish him harm. He takes command and, along with a visitor, postures as someone that is armed and ready to protect Vito. He gives specific instructions as to how to appear like a bodyguard.
Put your hand in your pocket like you have a gun. You'll be all right.
It is essential to note that while he is uneasy, he never loses his composure. He hasn't experienced much of the mob lifestyle, but he is able to adapt on the fly. In fact, he surprises himself when he sees the baker's hand shaking out of anxiety, but not his own. We begin to understand that while Michael has never been directly involved in the Corleone crime family, he is possibly very well suited for it. No matter how far removed his father kept him, he may have been destined for this. When Michael further begins to dip his toes in the underworld, even his family acknowledges how strange this is for him.
What are you gonna do? Nice college boy, huh? Didn't want to get mixed up in the family business?
He volunteers to murder a gang member and a police officer, not coerced at all by the people around him whom we might consider the truly evil folk. He devises a plan that even the consigliere agrees is sound. Now begins the descent he can never return from, He is now in the mix, for better or worse, and we consider him a peer of the other mobsters. After he commits the crime, his story shifts to a parallel storyline in Italy. What happens here isn't as relevant to Michael's ascent to the top, rather it speaks to what kind of life he is destined to live. It reinforces the characteristics that will influence his behavior when he eventually does assume a position of higher power. In Italy, he lives a quiet life, perhaps what he is accustomed to before he decides to get involved in mafia activities. He spends his days exploring the city and finding love. Despite his temporary happiness in this secluded state, what he is to learn is that this is no longer a lifestyle that is available to him. Apollonia's death at the hands of his own men furthers his distrusting nature of anyone and everyone. His active involvement in plots of crime means that no matter how far he runs, he can no longer return to his passive nature. He can no longer wait around for life to happen to him. He must live a life of vigilance. He must always be on high alert. He must always strike first. Meanwhile, in New York, what happens here is what sets off the final string of events that will lead to Michael's ascent, or by some definitions, descent. His brother Sonny, the de facto leader of the Corleones while their father is recovering, is murdered. Since their oldest brother Fredo is not considered a serious successor, all the cards fall into place. It only makes sense for Michael to be the eventual Don. When he gets back from Italy, he assumes control of the family. Everything that follows this feels almost inevitable, albeit increasingly vile. Now that we know Michael is capable of cold-blooded murder and great evil, his becoming the boss not only makes sense, but feels like a natural progression of the events of the story. It doesn't feel like a bait and switch, it feels earned. That's all we can ask for with something that comes as a twist. For there to at least be breadcrumbs that we can follow backward. For there to be something that feels like a logical chain of events that we can be rewarded for following. When he becomes boss, Michael is ruthless in his decision-making, distrusting everyone until proven otherwise. He has his father in his ear as well, possibly corrupting his mind further. Removing Tom Hagen from the consigliere position is a bold move, and even one that his impulsive brother Sonny couldn't get himself to do. He was once a war hero who was apprehensive about killing people in cold blood. Now he orders hits and exacts great evil in the name of protecting his family. As with all great magic tricks, we must have a satisfying ending that makes us consider where we started, where we have concluded, and what it all could possibly mean. We need a reality check. Some may argue that this reality check comes with the legendary montage where Michael attends the baptism of his nephew, while the hits he orders of all of his enemies take place. When the priest asks him if he rejects Satan, and we see his actions reflect that of an agent of Satan. I would argue that we are still enraptured by the magic trick at this moment. We continue to see Michael's corruption fester and spread. The true reality check comes when he's confronted by his family about his actions. Now he must confront the same people he was introduced with at the beginning of the film, when we were introduced to the seemingly infallible character. His sister accuses him of having her husband murdered and is hysterical. Michael dismisses her as hysterical and says as much to his wife Kay. When Kay asks Michael about Carlo's murder, he is infuriated that she would interfere with his business, or perhaps more earnestly, associate such evil with him. But then he softens up, not out of any authenticity of character, rather to deceive his spouse. He allows her to ask about his business this one time. He lies to her and tells her he wasn't involved in Carlo's murder. She is relieved to know that her husband could not possibly be involved with something so vile. As she walks out, she sees people walk up to him and show their fealty. They call him Don.
That Corleone.
When the door closes on Kay, when the door closes on us, we absorb the sheer magnitude of the magic trick. Kay realizes that the man she thought she once knew, the man who is father to her children, the man who she thought to trust just a minute ago, is a stranger. Unlike her, we are well acquainted with what Michael Corleone has become through the course of the film. We are well versed with each of the life events that caused him to get to this place. Even with this knowledge, we are just as dumbfounded as Kay is. Kay's disbelief is because she cannot recognize the man she once loved. Our disbelief is in our inability to fathom how the director pulled off this feat of storytelling. How he so seamlessly turned a man into the devil. And he did it right in front of our eyes, hidden in plain sight.